When you first watched the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, did you think, man, I really want to watch this film from the perspective of the Sawyer family? No? Well, me either. But Ania Ahlborn did, and she wrote a novel that's about as close as you're going to get. It's a dark, twisted ride that I kind of hated the entire way through, but I think that's kind of the point. But before we get into all that, let's jump into what it's all about. Brother is set in the deep backwoods of West Virginia, like some true hillbilly horror stuff, where the Morrow family lives in a crooked, decaying farmhouse miles from anything resembling civilization. This is the kind of family where, when girls go missing off the highway, the cops don't even think to knock on their door. And yeah, there's a reason for that. For one, they live so far off the grid that no one is paying attention. They exist in the forgotten corner of the Appalachia where people disappear and life just kind of keeps moving. But beyond that, there's this unspoken understanding in small, isolated towns. Some places you just don't go. Some people you just don't mess with. Maybe the locals suspect something, maybe they've heard the rumors, but no one's coming up the dirt road to find out for sure. And the Morrows know it. They've been doing this for years, and no one has stopped them yet. Our protagonist is Michael Morrow, and he's a bit of an outlier in his family of horrors. While the rest of the family seems to revel in, let's just call them dark hobbies, Michael longs for something more, something normal. He dreams of escaping the twisted grip of his family and finding a life beyond the blood-soaked walls of his childhood. And for a fleeting moment, it seems possible. When he meets Alice, a girl working at a record shop in the nearby town of Dahlia, Michael feels a flicker of hope. See, she's a glimpse into the world he's always wanted, a world where he might just be able to shed the darkness that clings to him. But of course, nothing in this story is that simple. Michael's older brother Rebel is all too eager to remind him of his place. And I've got to say, the blurb for this book, it really undersells how integral Rebel is to the story. Brother is really all about him, and quite frankly, he's a monster. But what makes the story work is how Ahlborn balances this by keeping Michael as sympathetic a character as she can. See, he's also a real piece of shit too, but he's just not as big of a piece of shit. Actually, I take that back. He's just as big of a piece of shit, but for different reasons. And we'll be back to that shortly. Through flashbacks, most of which are from Rebel's perspective, you get this deeper look into how this twisted sibling dynamic formed. It's unsettling, like watching someone mold clay, but with a sledgehammer. Michael's identity is built on Rebel's cruelty, and it's equal heartbreaking and horrifying. But this story isn't just about Michael and Rebel. The entire Morrow family is a case study in pure, unfiltered nightmare fuel. Let's start with Wade the father. At first glance, he almost seems like the least awful member of the family. Almost. He mostly just sits around, drinks his beer, and watches TV. But make no mistake, he doesn't need to shout or throw punches to be terrifying. Although his belt has a history of inflicting pain. His presence alone is horrifying. He is a quiet, looming threat that never really goes away. He's a Vietnam veteran, and the book strongly hints that his experiences in the war played a role in shaping him into the man we see, the patriarch of a family of killers. There are multiple references to the horrors he witnessed, and by the time we meet him, he's just little more than a husk of a man, drained of anything resembling humanity. Whether that makes him more tragic or just another monster in the house is up for the debate. Then there's Claudine, the mother. If you're expecting the tired trope of the passive, long-suffering woman who stays silent in the face of horror, think again. Claudine is perhaps the worst of them all. She is the cold, calculating mastermind behind the family's depravity, and she reinforces the horror with a terrifying mix of manipulation and religious fanaticism. Claudine is both an iron fist and the voice making sure you never forget who you belong to. And then we have Misty Dawn. She's barely a blip in the grand scheme of things, but her presence is a chilling reminder that this cycle of horror is deeply rooted in the family. Her scenes are among the most depressing. She's the whipping boy, the one that everyone takes their frustrations out on, bearing the brunt of the family's cruelty in a way that feels systemic. Claudine in particular seems to reserve a special kind of hatred for her, projecting all of her childhood trauma onto Misty and continuing the same cycle of abuse she once endured. There's this sick generational rot at play, where instead of breaking the chain of violence, Claudine reinforces it, making Misty the next in line to suffer. Unlike Michael, Misty doesn't have the luxury of hope. She's too young to dream of escape, too deeply entrenched in the family's dysfunction to see any way out. She's not just a victim of circumstance, she's a victim of everyone in that house, a reminder that this cycle of horror isn't stopping with Michael, it's just waiting for the next generation. Together, they form a perfect storm of abuse, fear, and manipulation, keeping Michael trapped in a reality where even considering escape feels like a betrayal. And that's what makes his book so suffocating. It's not just about physical horror, it's about the kind of horror that seeps into your identity, that makes you question whether you can ever truly be anything other than what you were raised to be. The book plays with that classic trope of the older sibling shaping the younger. But here, it's like looking through a cracked mirror. Instead of mentorship and support, Michael gets manipulation and violence. It's this corrupt take on the looking up to your brother dynamic. And it really drives home the horror of what happens when the person you're supposed to trust most is the one pulling you into darkness. Brother is the kind of book that makes you feel like you need to take a shower when you're done. While reading it, I was like, God damn, this is disturbing. It's unsettling. There were moments where I just had to put the book down and breathe. But honestly, I think that's what makes it work. Ahlborn isn't here to make you comfortable. She's here to drag you into the mud and make you sit with the grind. There's
3 hours later.
And one thing I really appreciated was how Ahlborn handles violence, particularly towards women. Most of it happens off-page, which is, quite frankly, a relief. I'm not one for gratuitous detail if it's not serving the story, and she uses a light touch here. Just enough to make your skin crawl, but, it's a delicate balance in horror, and she nails it. What really got to me, though, was the strange choice of play with the ages of the characters. The flashbacks are a bit disjointed, and it feels like the ages don't quite line up. At first, I thought it was just a continuity error, but it happened so often that I started to wonder if it was intentional. It added this eerie layer of unease, making you question what's real and what's not. It's like Ahlborn wants you to feel as disoriented as Michael, stuck in this nightmare where even time doesn't make sense. And then there's the ending. I had my theories. I was thinking it could go one of two ways. Either a depressing gut punch or something super cheesy. And honestly, I was bracing myself for disappointment. I wanted something unexpected, something that wouldn't just feel as like a cliche slasher flick or a neat little bow. And what I got was deeply bleak conclusion. Although you'll probably see the ending coming if you've watched or read enough horror, those last few lines are like a knife twist, pulling all the threads together in this perfect, awful way. It wasn't really surprising, but it felt inevitable and earned. It makes you recontextualize everything you just read, and you're sitting there just staring at the page, wondering how the hell you got here. I'm a sucker for bleak endings, and Ahlborn did not hold back. It's a horror where you walk away feeling just a little bit hollow inside. It's not just about what happens to the characters, but what it does to you as a reader. There's no catharsis, just this lingering unease, this sense that you've looked into the abyss, and the abyss looked right back at you. Now, should you read the book? That really depends. If you're the kind of reader who loves psychological horror, who can handle deeply flawed characters, and who doesn't mind exploring the darkest corners of the human experience, then yeah, Brother should be on your list. But let me be clear, this is not a casual read. It's not the kind of book you breeze through on a sunny afternoon. It demands something from you. It challenges you to sit with discomfort and wrestle with the ugliness of it all. If the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is your jam, or if you liked Vincent D'Onofrio's Chained, then I think you'll find a lot to love here. There's this undercurrent of unease that Ahlborn taps into so well. This idea that the real horror isn't always hiding in the shadows, but what's right there in the harsh light of day. And that's one of the most interesting things about Brother. It feels like horror in broad daylight. It reminded me of what made the original Texas Chainsaw so effective. This idea that even in the full light of day, with everything laid bare, the terror is still there. There's no dark corner to hide in, no comfort in the shadows. Ahlborn builds this world where the sun shines down on all the twisted, broken pieces of the Morrow family, and it feels almost claustrophobic. But here's the thing. If you prefer your horror with a bit of a safety net, then maybe steer clear of this one. Again, there's no catharsis here, no happy ending. It's bleak, it's messy, and it's not going to hold your hand through any of it. If that sounds like your kind of ride, then pick up Brother and dive in. Just maybe keep the light on. This book was a ride. It was messed up, sure, but it was also compelling and unique. The character work is top notch, especially with Michael and Rebel. The ending landed for me, which is, kind of rare in horror. There's nothing worse than a book that builds up all this tension only to drop the ball at the end, but Ahlborn really stuck the landing here. I'm a little bummed that, so many people say this is her best work, because now I'm like, great, where do I go from here? But if her other work even scratches the surface of what she did in Brother, I'm all in. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends, family, and even your enemies. Just no hillbilly cannibals, please. And of course, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button because every subscriber inches me one step closer to taking over the galaxies. Until next time, take care, keep reading, and I'll see you in the next one.